Okay, listeners, so today you are in for a real treat. We have our guest today is the epitome of a
Oh
feel-good,
goodness.
inspiring underdog story. We have Kalif Raymond, who is a wide receiver and I had to write it down, a return specialist for
Yeah.
the Detroit Lions in the NFL. So
Mhm.
welcome, Khalif. We're thrilled to have you here.
Yes, ma'am. Aaron, it's good to see you again. Good to continue our busmate conversations as we had. So I'm really excited.
Well, I thought I'd give people an idea of a little glimpse into the kind of guy you are by telling people how we met. Um, a few weeks ago, both Khalif and I were invited back to Worcester, Mass, where we both
Mhm.
have
Yes,
connections.
ma'am.
And a small group of us were kind of thrown together and really for this amazing experience to bring back people and see what Worcester is looking like. And I met Khalif after this really inspiring talk, and I was like, "Hi, where are you from? What do you do?" And, no idea. And you were so humble and so kind and generous and asking me about my life and my family. And these guys are talking about the NFL and football. And I turned to you and said, "Well, wait a minute, are you in the NFL now?" And you're like, "Well, yeah." I'm like, well, what team do you play for? I mean, I was completely oblivious. And
Uh,
you didn't throw it in my face. You didn't have any bravado about, you should bow down to me or any kind of big ego. And really to the other side of things, you were so humble and you were just such a good person. And then I heard more of your backstory and I was so inspired and so impressed. I thought, gosh, would you ever come talk to our listeners? Because it's such a great story. What we do here in the Inspire Lounge is really try to tell people sort of these backstories and really
mhm.
help people push past those fears, take action, and take those little steps. It's not a clear path. Often there's lots of road bumps and hurdles to get you to where you want to go. And
Yep.
as I was listening to more about what you have done, now people see this great superstar, but when you look back at your story and what it took to get there, that's to me really the important message. And so I really just wanted to kind of bring you on, really dig into your story and tell people, kind of what you had to do to get here. I was thinking, if they had said, "Oh, there's an NFL player here on this bus," I gotta say, you wouldn't have been my first pick
The
of,
first pick.
of who that
This might, it
was,
might have been
right?
tomorrow as the first
Right?
pick.
And so, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit of kind of about your background, kind of what then brought you to Worcester, and then we can go from there as
Yeah,
well.
of course. One, thank you for having me. Two, what's crazy thing is you just giving me such a good introduction. But I think a lot of the reason why it resonated is because like the characteristics that it took to for me to get where I am, we kind of resonated with each other because you have and I'm sure your listeners know, but your story is incredible. And your story is relatable in the sense that I feel like yours is like it's real. It's what it takes to do to get through in real life situations to build, grow, start over, build, grow. And I don't know if they read your book, and I'm sorry you just sent it to me. But from the brief message that I got about yours, I was like, a lot of people think about what it's like to live in another country, but to take that step at that age and just go and figure it out, I mean, it takes some gusto to do that. So just thinking about, thankfully I was allowed to play football and continue doing football.
Yeah.
But it was something that I knew and something that I continued to keep allowed to do, something I was already comfortable with that I pursued. So I kind of stayed in that light. Why I was so inspired by yours is just because of the fact that, you were constantly adapting to the direction you were taking, and it kind of brought you to a path that forged into something familiar. But you didn't start with like what built you who you are. You didn't start with that. So for me, that's why I was so humble just to hear your story, just because I started with something familiar, stuck with it, and built on it. But you went into real life, so we'll build on that more. I'll just it's just why, like I said, I think it's the reason why we resonate
I
so
was gonna
much.
say, I feel like you're my brother, or something.
Yeah.
I just feel like we're connected, so you're sort of
Yeah,
stuck with
we
me.
see life like a similar like viewpoint. But no, so yeah, I started playing when I was younger. Stuck with it for a good deal, and then to kind of give you the quick synopsis. Knew I wanted to play college football. Didn't have any offers. I already saw I'm not the tallest guy. This camera's making me look taller than I am. But I ended up breaking my ankle my senior year in high school without any offers. So you're my height.
Just to set the stage, right? So you're a senior in
Yep.
high school. You're
Yep.
is it Atlanta that you're from, or
Yep. In Atlanta. Yep. Yep. Yes,
senior high school? You want to play football.
uh,
You're not 6'4", 250. You're
yep.
smaller stature, and now you break your ankle as
Yeah.
you're looking at
Exactly.
trying to get into colleges. I mean, not
Uh,
a lot. Not a lot saying, "Hey, this is a guy headed for the NFL," right?
and you know what's crazy is I remember there was a coach and he was asking me how to recruit me, and really wanted to go to Georgetown. And at that point, I wanted to go to kind of somewhere that was like matching academics. I didn't know at this point that football is guaranteed, of course.
Yeah.
And I mentioned the broken ankle, and I could just see his face just kind of go flush, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm definitely not getting this offer from here." So that whole process went pretty well. Didn't go that well. I was stressed out. My mentor, my best friend's dad, my godfather, all above. He sat me down, put me at ESPN.com. I went to every school staff and directory for every conference and every division that you could in football. Kind of conjured up about 800 emails, sent them all out. Not so many schools interested in a 5 8 guy broken ankle. But out of those schools, I think I had around, I always say 10, but could have been give or take 10 to 15 legitimate mess responses.
You send
Whether it
out
be
800
automated or not.
emails. You're like, "Hey, you got 10 responses."
Yeah, so I'm like, hey, Kalif Raymond, here's my highlight tape, my junior highlight tape. I'm going to send you the link to my senior. Obviously, my senior is only 4 games. I got hurt. Kind of give them my SAT scores, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And out of all the schools, I only had 10 hour like actual responses, and out of those, I had 3 schools that were like legitimately interested.
Okay.
To the point where they like take a phone call and call some more. That was Holy Cross, Mercer, and Lehigh.
Okay.
And those are the 3 schools. And it got down to the last day right before signing day. I ended up signing to Holy Cross, which ended up being my only offer. So it ended up being the biggest blessing of my life. To go to Holy Cross, spend 4 years there. I'm still kind of working on a plan B because I know I want to play football, but also you just legitimately don't know. So still kind of doing internships and stuff and whatnot. The Denver Broncos call, which is really, really cool. I end up going there for camp, but I had no precedent because it wasn't a lot coming from Holy Cross at that time.
Yeah.
So I go there.
Back up for a second too.
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
You graduate from Holy Cross, and I
Mhm.
want to know, like, kind of what was in your mindset, right? Because it's sort of every kid's dream, to play professional sports, right? You want to
Yeah.
be in the NFL, you want to be, up at the plate and getting that home run, that's sort of the
Mhm.
dream. So, you graduate, and what was even in your mindset to say, well, gosh, I can play for the NFL? I mean, were you getting that kind of feedback from coaches, or what inspired you
Um,
to keep going?
I knew I was always going to try. I didn't know the extent of how much I was going to try, but I always knew deep down inside I had what it took. I just didn't know how to like formulate it into an actual plan. Because like I said, there was no precedent at that point in time, so I had no idea what it's supposed to look like. So I'm kind of just guessing, but I knew I was going to try whatever that took.
Okay.
So my junior year, actually, I'm going into my junior year after my junior year, senior year, summer, and I actually called a Holy Cross alumni, Craig Saratani, and I said, "Hey, Craig, look, I'm going to put everything I can in football. I think I want to take a shot at the NFL, but also this is no guarantee. I need a plan B. I need some help with my resume. I need an
Awesome.
internship,
Yeah.
wherever I can, but I can't be there because I have to train for the internship. So I have to train for the NFL to go into like have a huge senior season. So I can't be there. So I need like a makeshift internship where I can come to Boston a couple times, but I really got to train." And he talked to me and he was like, "Look, man, you know what? As an alumnus of Holy Cross, I can make something work for you." And he did that. He kind of created me an internship where I didn't physically have to be there.
That's
And it gave
amazing.
me such a peace of mind.
And did you reach out? Did you reached out on your own to say, "Hey, he's an alum. I'll see if he'll help me"?
Yeah, I was.
That took guts.
It,
Just
it does. And
you know.
Craig was in a 90 wide program, which helped. But before I started with him, I was just LinkedIn, kind of just sending cold emails out for an internship in general.
Yeah.
And then was like, "Hey, you know what? I'm actually think I should really put my foot into this and try to do what I can." So, and I sent one to Craig, and Craig said, "You know what? I'll take care of you. I'm looking for a pipeline anyway." And that gave me such a peace of mind because it let me train, and I happened to have a season enough to where I was like, you know what, I can actually take a legitimate shot.
Okay.
So the season kind of helped, but I would to say, hey, you can go. But prior to that,
Yeah.
I didn't. I was one of the catalysts. I worked too hard, so I was always hurt because I couldn't stop working out.
Okay.
In my senior year, had a season I was well enough to say, no, here, take a shot.
And I love that. And some of these things, you're like, oh, I did this. And, I want to make sure people understand, like, hey, each step of the way, you're pushing yourself, you're taking those,
Absolutely.
you know, it's I have a little we talk a lot about the lizard brain. I have one always
Uh-huh.
with
So I
me.
saw two of those in the books, and
I gave you
I was
those for
going
the
to ask
book.
about. Okay, awesome.
You're talking about pushing, that voice that says, "Oh, you can't do it," or "Who am I to think I can make the NFL?"
Yeah.
And then with each little step, it starts becoming clear. Like, well, gosh, that alum is going to help me. Okay, gosh, I can have an interview. I can intern. I have a plan
Mm-hmm.
B. Now I can focus, work hard. I'm going to go all in for the NFL. And I got myself a safety net too. If I,
I love that too because that voice, and like I said, you're a walking product of it, but that voice has been huge in both the advancement of my career, but also where it's halted and where it stayed. Because that voice is legitimately everything. And I think, and I'll be surprised if it was different in your field, but being able to take that stuff, saying I can, oh my
yeah.
goodness. Because even when I got to the NFL, I struggled with that my first few years. Like, hey, I belong or I can do it,
Oh, I
and
love
I carried it like that. And every the way the way I was walking around, the way I projected was, I'm kind of just getting by here. And then once I kind of like, once I fought that voice more,
yeah.
say, hey, no, no, not only do I belong, but I put the work in to be here. This is what I'm supposed to be. My career started to take off. So my first 3 years, you'll see through my Wikipedia page, whatever it is, that's I was battling that voice. I really was.
Right. Well, that's what's to me, I just love, right? You were telling me a little bit on the bus, and I'm so out of how this world, my son and my dad, my husband and my son knew all about what you were talking about. But when you were saying, okay, graduate, you're trying to get in the NFL,
Mm.
typically, I don't know if at that point there's the draft and then you're undrafted
Yep.
and you didn't get drafted and you didn't, I don't know if the combine is the same thing, but basically
Yep.
all the typical steps for the NFL, you didn't make any of those.
Didn't do
And
exactly.
so, right then and there, that lizard brain could be saying, "See, I told you, right?" But no,
Yeah, exactly.
you kept pushing through. So you don't get drafted. You're not in any of the typical things. So how do
Mhm.
you get to the NFL then? So what do you do? All the doors are closed in your face.
Yeah, they honestly, the crazy part is once you once you get to there, so once you actually get to the NFL, once you get to the first practice, once you get to because there are guys coming from. I went to the combine, I first round draft pick, second round draft pick, third.
Yeah.
I ran this 40. I went to this school. I went to this college. I played at this level. All we get there. The coolest part about it is when you get to the first practice and you put on your helmet and you look around, it doesn't say first round draft pick helmet. It doesn't say I went to the combine helmet. It's just helmets. And it's at the end of the day, it's hey, when you go catch a pass, they don't say, hey, Georgia guy, hey, first round. They say number 11 with the
Yeah.
same Denver Broncos had everybody else had.
Kalif
No,
Raymond.
you know what I'm saying? Number 19, go,
Yeah.
hey, good catch. Or
Yeah.
what are you doing? So it
Yeah.
becomes an even playing field. And at that point, you realize, man, it doesn't matter where you come from, what your background is. It's what you're willing to do when you get to the moment. And if you're willing to take a step forward versus hide and to not pursue. Because when you catch, like I said, if you catch a touchdown, it doesn't matter what you're, it just matters that you caught the touchdown. And
Right.
so
I
that was the
love
biggest thing.
that. And that was it kind of an aha moment when you saw all the helmets, you're like, well,
Oh yeah.
you know,
Oh
the
yeah.
I
Once
remember
once I got there, it's a game changer. Yes, man. Once you see all the helmets, you're like, that was the first step in like hearing the voice and combating it. Like, hey, oh, I can't. It's all the same helmet. Like everybody's the same person. Like
wow.
they didn't call you Oklahoma. They just called you number 19. Like
Yeah.
let you go play. It was huge.
It just gave me goosebumps. I was saying mine was I was sitting in a library surrounded by books and I thought, well, all those guys were authors. They at one point they weren't
Yep.
authors, right?
They
I
weren't
said, well,
authors. Yep. Exactly.
you just have to start. I could be one.
Uh-huh.
They all had to start somewhere. Why couldn't I?
Yep.
Right. So I love that
Exactly.
sort of just saying, well, wait a minute, I belong here. And now it's an,
Mhm.
even playing field. So, so you go back and forth, you're trying to open these doors.
Mhm.
The first few years, it sounded like you had a few starts and stops.
Yeah.
Who was the first team that said, okay, we're going to give you a chance?
So it's actually Tennessee, and it was in year 4, and that's probably if I talk to all of my friends, all of my teammates, all of the young guys coming in, and all of my family, everybody that I talk to, and they ask me, what was the craziest part about the journey? And I'm like, man, I feel like everybody now is so much instant gratification of things that happen. I was like, man, I didn't score my first touchdown until my 4th year, and then I had already played 4 years. I had already been cut 8 or 9 times before I scored my first touchdown. My 5th year was my first year making the team outright out of camp. That was my first time ever actually saying, hey, you were on the team. We were not getting cut. It wasn't until my 5th year in the NFL. So
Wow.
it took that time. It took that much adaptation. And like I said, I cut, I think 9 times total. I had to learn each time why I got cut and then adapt. And then as I continued to build, by the time I got to my 4th or 5th year, I was still learning, but I was more well-rounded. I had my failures. I learned, hey, okay, I trained all offseason on this, but I missed this. Okay, then I was training all offseason on this, but then I missed this. And it kind of just, the continuous adaptation let me stay in the league. But it took 4 years at Tennessee Titans, and that was at that point my 4th team.
Wow. And so this is
Yes,
such a
man.
great message, right? So here you are, you're in, you're out, you're cut, but you listened to
Yeah.
the feedback. You worked on it.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yep.
weren't spiteful or whatever. Once you got through the disappointment, you're like, all right, let me run a little faster, listen, get up a little
Yeah.
earlier,
And
really.
there were some times I remember 2017 was my 2nd year in, and I hit a super rough pass. In my first year, some people call it a sophomore slump, whatever it was. My first year changed the team. My first year was my legitimate adaptation. I had to go to a different team, different faces, different people, still playing the same sport, but I
Right.
had to rework the whole software. And I got there, and all the comforts that I had, when they weren't there anymore, I didn't know the people. They didn't trust me. I didn't know them.
You're like, who's this guy?
There was
Yeah.
just exactly, and
Yeah.
there's so much anxiety with that, so much fear that came with that, and it was that year was one of the hardest years of my life, and to the point to even the last game of 2017, I was playing for the New York Giants. I actually told myself, I was like, I just played my last NFL game. Like
Wow.
I knew that was it for me, because like you don't have that many mistakes and be able to come back.
Yeah.
And that off season in 2017, right after the 2017 season, going into 2018, I trained harder than not ever. And there was a decision made. So I was like, I just said that was my last game. And I came back. For some reason, they signed me to a futures. And I asked them, said, hey, you know what? Before I went to talk to that coach, I was like, you know what? I'm either going to go tell him I'm probably done. I'm going to tell him, hey, you know what? Just give me a shot. I'll do everything that I can to make sure I come back. And I did that. And he didn't cut me after the draft. He kind of gave me the summer. And I did everything. I flipped over I trained so much that summer. I had welts that looked like permanent marker on my body. I trained so hard that summer. And I put everything to it. I put everything into it. And
And what is that motivation? You just were self-motivated. You said, I'm going all in. I know I can do this. When you
uh,
had a down day, what did you tell yourself?
um I would say one, I want to be able to look myself in the mirror, and to know, because I needed to know that I gave everything because I can if I give everything that I have, also if I give everything that I have,
Yeah.
and I'm talking about everything that I have, I can live with outcome, success or failure, because that's all that I am.
Yeah.
If I can give everything I have, but if I fail knowing that I didn't give everything that I have,
Right.
that's tough to live with. And honestly, and I feel like people, myself included, and everybody that I know, everybody that I met, I feel like I've always felt everything that you have is more than enough.
Yeah.
That's not what it is. It's whether or not you're willing to give it, because that's tough. Are you willing to get up at 6 and run? Are you
Yeah.
willing to get up and do that workout, go for that jog, drink that coffee, whatever it is? Are you willing to stay after hours? Because I had a workout at 9, had one at 12, had one at 2, had one at 4, and then I had one at 11 at night. So I was
Whoa.
going, and I was doing that for 6 weeks. But are you willing to give that? I quit a lot, 90% of my vices. Video games is huge. I was coming out of college, so I played a lot of video games. That was going. A lot of music that I listened to, I changed all that to kind of calm my mom. I mean, I gave up everything that I could to be to. There was somebody I wanted to be, and who I was at that moment, I would want to sacrifice everything I needed to become the person that I thought that I was or that I wanted to be. And that's the decision that needed to be made. And that decision came from one, like I said, I wanted to look myself in the mirror, but two, up until that point, even if I don't know it, there's a lot of people that made sacrifices to get there. Could be my parents made a lot of sacrifices. My mentor at that point in time, he sat me down and helped me send 800 emails out. That's a sacrifice. There's so many people that sacrifice themselves along the way. The best thing that I can do to give back as a thank you for what was done for me is to give everything that I have. So
Well, that reminds me. So after we met and we, had so much fun together, I went and Googled you. I was like, oh my gosh, he's a real player, man. But I was looking up some of your some of the things that have been written about you.
Uh-oh.
He's known for his speed, his work ethic, and resilience, from being undrafted to becoming a core player in one of the NFL's most exciting teams. It said, Kalif Raymond has become a cornerstone of the Detroit Lions, not only for his on-field contributions, but also for his exemplary character and leadership. Dan Campbell, the head coach, says, Leaf is our Iron Man. He is smart. He is tough. He is headsy. He's a go-getter. He is resilient. He is a huge asset for us. Thank God we have him. The quarterback, Jared Goff, said, he's that guy every day that if you're not doing what he's doing, you're kind of looking at yourself like, man, I need to do more. He sets the standard for who we all want to be as teammates and players. It just gave me goosebumps, right? It says, why he's valued. It says clutch catches in big moments, speed and agility in open space, leadership and work ethic. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
Thank you.
Congratulations, right? I mean, and you think part of what I'm hoping, especially for people who are out there, there's a lot of transition right now, and there's a lot going on with layoffs or, people early in their career trying to think, oh gosh, how am I ever going to get to that next stage? And part of the message is, having that dream, but really wanting it. If you want it, you can get it, but it doesn't just land in your lap. You know,
Yeah.
you're 4 years, 5 years in the NFL, you haven't scored a touchdown, you're getting cut, you're getting, trying so hard, working at 11 o'clock at night, and still you're getting cut. It would be very easy to say, oh, I gave it a shot. You know, I did, I did what I could do. I've had enough. I'm gonna go, you know, have some chips and sit on the couch and play my video games and we'll call it a day. And you kept going and you kept going and you kept going. And then you landed in Detroit Lions in,
Mhm.
was it 21 or
Yes, ma'am. 21. Yep.
and I've learned a little bit, I didn't realize how tough last year was for you. I thought maybe this is the year, and we're
Yeah.
seeing it right in front of us right now that this could be the incredible year for the Lions. Um,
Mhm.
and so now you've made it, right? So all those years, so people who might just see you now, or young kids looking up to you saying, oh, he's so lucky. Well, luck's only one small piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. Yep.
It is, hey, call me at 6:30 in the morning when we have
You're
five
right.
workouts ahead of us. And
Yep. Exactly. Yes,
and I
ma'am.
think that to me is just what's so incredible about the journey. So now that you're sort of in the NFL, you're on the team,
Mhm.
you're, what do you feel like now? Are you, when they talk about your work ethic or your leadership in the locker room, what's what's some of those where do those remarks come from? What are the kind of some of the things
Oh,
you're
you know what's
doing?
crazy is I think everything up to this point, was the blessing. That was the journey. That's the part that meant so much to me because, now that I'm on the team now and I get to finally to play and enjoy being an NFL player,
Yeah.
I don't forget what it took to get here because it made me who I am. 2017 ended up being the biggest blessing of my life because it taught me what will I do when the chips are down. When things get hard, how do I adapt? And I think about all those moments. I think about what I went through, and it does two things for me. Once it brings me a sense of joy and happiness knowing that I can figure it out. And the next stage of my, whatever the next stage is, I know that I have the toughness and resilience to go. Um, but two, it humbles me as well because I know what it was like to be on the other end. So I don't take anything for granted. I appreciate the little moments that I hear because they mean a big deal in the end. So yeah, I'm very thankful to be where I am, and I think that's the coolest part about it.
I love that, right? And it's very fragile, especially the
Yeah.
NFL, right? I mean, it
Mhm.
can change in a moment. Um, but I was thinking, and it must be when I looked at some of your plays, I see one you had that like 90-yard return. It's
uh,
got to be one of those like life moments. You return
uh,
the the punt, I guess, the kick. You
well,
return.
see, even that's cool. That just happened last year, and during the return, I'm like crossing the line, and like this time I'm yelling at the crowd. I turn around. When I turn around, I'm actually like holding back tears,
Oh,
because it's just when it happens, I worked so hard for that moment.
yeah.
Um, and it didn't start in 2024. I was just I remember there's a song that I played 2018. It was that summer I was telling you about. It's like just some songs because I've been waiting too long, and I was 3 or 4 years in. I'm like, still hasn't happened. Not only a touchdown, but punt return in particular was a big area of fear in my life. And I worked so hard for that moment. So each one is like so precious, but like it like legitimized all the work that went into that moment. Because the one I had in 2022 was actually my first one. But that could have all, everybody said there could have been a fluke. Even to myself, like, man, I got one, and I cried then too. But this one was like it legitimized all the work that went into it. I'm like holding back tears. I remember getting up at 6. I remember the
Oh,
fear that I had every time. So it's just that moment right there was special because it's like, man, like it
all of
was special because I did the work. Like I know I did the work, and it just cut me like the work was put in and it happened, and that was a special moment for me because
well, I love too. They said it was in Detroit, right? So
yeah, it was,
extra special. It was your
it
team, your
was, yep,
town. They said
yes, ma'am,
65,000 fans cheering for you.
yep.
What it gives me goosebumps now, just like how incredible, right?
Yeah,
Well, I was
yes,
expecting a
ma'am.
little hip hop dance now that I know that's in your background.
Oh, but see, yeah, I do like that to see, but though the punt returns, it's just the other things happen. But like I said, the punt return, I had so much fear in my heart. I had so much anxiety. I had to power through. So when the punt return touchdown happened, it's hard not to like start crying because it's like, I mean, imagine working for something. Let's say 8 or 9 years now. I'm going into my 10th year in the NFL for myself. Um, but I've been playing football since I was 8. So, um, and let's say you do count college. Let's say college is when it started getting legit.
Yeah.
That's almost 12 years worth of work. Out of the 12, 8 of them were in the NFL, and out of the ones in the NFL, 6 of them were the only ones that like I felt any sort of peak. The rest of them were a grind, but to
Mm.
get to that moment and to know, I mean, it was just like I said, I'm literally over. It's just it's like working
Oh,
for 12 years and saying finally I got what I was working at.
Oh, I mean, it's such a rush. I love that you're explaining that because before I knew you, I used to say to
Mm-hmm.
my husband, "Oh, that poor guy who gets the pup repair," because I said everybody's running full
Full
speed
speed,
at you. I
yeah.
was like, that is so scary, and
Yeah.
and then you're saying too, like, and the guys are getting bigger. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, they are. They're getting bigger and
you're getting
faster.
hit,
And yes,
and
ma'am.
no, I mean, well, congratulations. I mean, that what
Thank you, Aaron.
what a lot of hard work is. It's so wonderful to see some of the benefits now, right?
Mhm. Yes, ma'am.
So next year when you do win the Super Bowl, you're going to have to come back, talk to us
Dude,
about.
oh, yeah, I'm like, hey, Aaron called it. So coming out
um,
to you first.
tell me a little bit about, something, now. So now you're in the NFL. Are you still working as hard? Can you ease up a little bit, or
Uh,
what's kind of the day to day like now?
so I would say last year I probably worked a bit harder, if not just as hard as I did in 2017. Just because I think at one point in time, so we were at practice, and I'm getting closer to the tail end of my career, and I remember looking. I remember being on the other side of after practice. I'm sorry, and I was driving. I was like, I imagine myself not being in there and having like to look over the fence and see what it'd be like. Oh, like what are they doing? And I remember the next day we came in and had practice, and I was like, wow, I'm on this side of the fence. And I remember like had to remember what kind of a blessing it is to be here. That pushes me.
Yeah.
It I would say it's the same work ethic in a sense. It's just tailored differently.
Yeah.
And my wife is a testament to that too, because at one point in time, if you train the way you do, the hard part is that there isn't an off switch. She's helped me with that because up until this point, I had such a fear and anxiety for failure that I wouldn't sleep. I have super bad sleeping because I'm so like anxious. Like, oh, I didn't do. I gotta go back to the facility. Like, for instance, I wanted to sprint today. My legs are. The week was rough. I'm limping in and out the house, but because I didn't sprint, tomorrow, like in my head, I'm just like, I gotta sprint, I gotta sprint, I gotta sprint. Tomorrow's our day off, but I can't. Like, the fear of failure is just still aching at me. My wife really does help me with calm down. You put in the work.
Yeah.
Don't let the voice beat you up.
Yeah.
Trust yourself, and trusting myself is now becoming the bigger part of it because now I get the rest. I get to enjoy. I let the anxiety go. Enjoy the moment. Trust the work I put in. Now, when I do take off, I do come home. I put my work in the mailbox and I walk through my front door, and that's helped me a lot. So
I love that. And we talk a lot about that with, especially with entrepreneurs, right? About, you have to fill the tank, right? You cannot always be going because you have to take that break, when you're stuck or when you're working so hard. Even a 10-minute walk around the block can really change things, right?
Burnout
Because
is a real thing. It's a real thing.
you can't go at 100 all the
The
time.
time.
You have to take that break and take, both from that and like you're saying, appreciating where you are. I have a little gratitude notebook in the morning. Just you write down 3 things you're grateful for. And I think now as you're kind of looking at somewhat of the sunset of your career, maybe in the NFL, I mean, 10 years is an amazing career. I was just starting to think, well, okay, what could come next? And like you're saying now, being grateful every day, like, oh man, I'm in the NFL. I've worked so hard to get here. I'm living the dream. It came, and being grateful, saying, okay, enjoying all of this and knowing, okay, and there will be other great things to come as well too, right? And
It
just
changes everything.
yeah,
Changes the day, changes the moment. Lights
yeah,
are brighter. I mean, you just feel being grateful.
yeah,
Open. It even like you feel better. Your work ethic change. Like
yeah.
literally, being grateful has a physical, biological change on you. So.
It's so, so true. Okay, so now some of the fun stuff. So tell me, what actually happens like in the huddle? Like are
Oh
people,
gosh. Okay. Yeah.
is
Yeah.
there,
Let's do, I'm excited. Now
is there
we
like
can do stuff.
leadership happening? Is it tell us like what
It
happens?
is. So it is a little bit of I feel like the funnest parts are like the penalty or the break or right before, because when the play calls, kind of like everybody gets in. It's like, all right, we got to go now. The play's probably long. Because the play took long to get in because they're still kind of adjusting from the last play. The timers clock, we have a play clock, so it's timing down. So once to get in the huddle, it's like, hey, boom, 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 what do you got? What do you got? What do you got?
Okay.
I got this. I got this. I'm F. I'm F. I'm F. I'm F. I'm Z. I'm Z. I'm this spot. I'm this spot.
Okay.
So it gets going. The coolest parts are like right before the play starts. There's a penalty or there's a timeout or something like that, and you'd be looking at some of the guys, especially the cold games, just like you look over to the guys like, it's cold out here. Like you ever start having like little side conversations like, yeah, I don't like number 96. Yeah, he just so you start having little moments like that that are really funny. Or you start like reminiscing on the past plays. It's just that, those are the moments that are really funny.
So
But
you
most
can
time
have you can have some fun out there.
you do, yeah. That's when the fun comes when there's like a pause in the game and you start making little jokes. Like, I like that Sally. I was like, what move did you hit him with? Oh, I did the you start making little jokes like that. But once you get inside the huddle, you see everybody in there. It's not intense, but it's like it's it's direct, it's decisive because at that point when we finally break the huddle, you might have 12 seconds, if that, and it's 12, 11, 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say there's
you
no
have to
messing
go
around because the clock is ticking and
exactly.
you got to
Yeah.
know your stuff. Um,
The huddle is funny, and then of course the funniest part is just me being my height. So I have to like sneak my way in there because what happens, you have a big wall of 6'5" guys, and I'm just like, wait, hold on, wait. Wait, hello, what's the play? And so
What I
you kind of
say?
have to
Yeah.
establish, yeah, you have to establish a footprint. Like I'm on this side of the huddle. Like, yeah, you can get like an inch or two, but I hear, I can't hear anything. So those are funny moments, especially for the shorter guys.
I was gonna say too, like that, just all the pieces that just have made you who you are. I mean, the fact
Mm-hmm.
that you know you were so humble and kind to everyone you met. You didn't have any kind of bravado. And you need it in the NFL. I mean, you have to be tough and
Mm-hmm.
you have to have that persona. But for you to be able to kind of shut that off and be appreciative, you're a smaller guy, you're up against all these big guys, and that you
Mm-hmm.
had this um, just healthy mindset that you are, that you're appreciative and that both the combination of I deserve to be here when everything was
Mm-hmm.
sort of going against you. You're like, just it's an incredible mindset that you've been able to develop over these years that said, I belong here. Um, I could see how you could have easily like, they call it like the Napoleon complex, right? Like they have people who are like, oh, they make up for things by like
Yeah.
tough or see I'm tough. And I just love that you didn't have that kind of negative edge to you,
Uh-huh.
to prove yourself. Like you proved it in your actions, right? You proved it
Yep.
in your numbers
Exactly.
and your stats. And, if they didn't take notice before, they're sure taking notice now, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Sharing, if you have any kind of an embarrassing moment or something that you kind of like, oh man, what was I thinking?
In
Um,
the NFL or in
in the
general?
NFL or
Oh man, I've had so many embarrassing moments. Wow. Let's see.
as you think about this, I'll tell one that my brother,
Uh,
I was asking him, he was a soccer player that turned into a field, this will be a blooper, a field goal kicker. Um, he was in our big town football game for Thanksgiving Day game, and he came in for a field goal, and he makes the field goal, and he's a big superstar,
mhm.
and everybody's cheering, and it was really exciting. Well, then he goes back, and he had to do the kickoff, something after the,
Uh-huh.
but he was a lefty barefoot kicker. And so everybody's cheering him. He's so great. And then he goes back to do the
Uh,
kickoff. He took off the wrong cleat. So now, like everyone starts laughing at him because he has to go back and change his shoes and delay the
oh no.
game. So he went from like, star to, goat with
You know what I will say? You know it's a reoccurring dream, is the I can't find my helmet dream.
oh
So
yeah.
there's always like a lot of skits or memes like that, like not being
Yeah.
up, or like in movies, you see like where's your helmet?
Yeah.
I have dreams where they're telling me to go in on a lot of occasions, and I'm like, I just have my helmet. Where is it? And I'm freaking out, and then I wake up in the morning. I'm like,
Where's my
because
helmet?
I'm thinking about it. So it happens so much. Um,
Is that right
yeah,
before a game, probably? Like when you're under
yeah,
stress?
it is.
Yeah.
It is. I'm trying to think of some of the funniest things that have happened. I tell you what, there's been a lot of like not necessarily the safety things, but there's a lot of times where I shouldn't have. Where I don't know what's left. Put it this way. There's one time I was catching a punt, and I just got hit really hard to play before, and sometimes you get a little dizzy and you kind of come back. But um, I got hit, and I was talking to one of my receivers. Like, "Hey, you okay?" I was like, "Man, I can't really see anything." So leave, go back there and catch a punt. He's like, "You gonna be all right?" It's like I don't know. So I'm like going back there, and I'm like looking at him. He's like, "You good?" I'm like, and they keep the punt, and like I barely like I'm walking back. It kind of looks like I'm like a little inebriated. I'm like a little drunk
Oh,
running back there, and the ball hits my hand, and I'm like, I got it. And I can't run it. But at that point, I was so out of it that you'd be surprised how many times you'll see guys. They're actually like they're either they're just really really wobbly, they can't see, and they'll be walking and they'll be yelling like like you okay? It's like no, I can't see anything. You're like you literally put on such a bravado all the time. There's
oh.
times where I got hit in the stomach and I'm like walking back to the huddle. I'm jogging. Leave you okay? I'm like. I can't breathe. I'm like, huh? Just give me a second. I can't breathe. This happens so much, but you have to put on such a bravado that you know.
Oh, I mean, that's both terrifying for me. And, it's funny and terrifying at the same time. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, think of all these guys running at you and you can't see. Like that's pretty scary.
Yeah, there's one. I broke my ankle in 2022. I mean, not my ankle, my rib. I broke my rib in 2022, and it was funny. I broke it in the first quarter, and in the second half, I'm like, and then Jared's in the huddle. He's like, "Leave, like, calm down, like, calm down." I'm like, "I'm not tired." He's like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "I think I broke my rib." He's like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I think I broke my rib."
Wait, so you played the
But
game with a broken rib?
I did. I ended up breaking my rib, played the rest of the half, came back and kept playing. But at that point in time, you just you don't know for sure, and it's so much adrenaline running, and
Yeah.
you kind of go with it. But it was just funny that way that everybody was looking at me, and I was like looking around the huddle. That's a huddle moment. I'm like, and Panay's like, "Is he okay?" And then Jared's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Okay,
Oh my
okay,
gosh.
just take the ball."
We got to add
Yeah.
Superman to your creds here,
Oh
like
goodness
that's
gracious,
unbelievable.
barely.
Um, I mean, I think especially too for those listening, saying the getting to hear your story of, if you're going through something right now and you're sort of feeling down, you're feeling like you can't get to the other side, or you're dreaming too big, or it feels impossible. I mean, Kalif is living proof that, hey, if you want this, you can get it.
Mhm.
It is hard work. It doesn't just get handed to you, but if you want it,
Mhm.
it is possible. And it's
Yeah,
about
and I
taking
got
those steps.
two things. The
Beautiful.
biggest, I would say two things in the picture. The first one, and I always kind of like use this. The person that you're going to be in the future is going to thank the person you are now by the decision you make in that moment, in this moment right now. The
I love
person you
that.
are in the future, and then the one of the coolest things that ever. This is the biggest blessing I've ever received from this story, or from just living in the decision I made back then. There was a janitor with the Lions, and I remember talking to him, and he was like, he had to move out of his house. His house getting foreclosed on. He was like sleeping out of his car, and I just told him, like, basically I was telling him my story, and I was like, keep pushing because you don't know how your decision could affect somebody else. I told him my story. He went home, came back. I saw him like a month later. He was like, "Man, I just want to let you know, like, talking to you and hearing your story gave me a lot of peace, but it gave me a lot of work ethic." He ended up going to college, getting a degree, starting a company, his own company. And I was like, and I remember thinking when he heard, he's like, "Man, I moved out of my mom's house. I moved out. I got out of my car. I got a group of friends right now. We're starting like a company right now to have an advisement team." I was like, "Wait, what?" And he was younger. He was a young kid, and I was like, you don't know what your story is going to do for somebody else
Yeah.
because you're working for your story, but you're also working because you may change somebody else's life by the actions you make right now or decisions you make right now. And there's this picture. I love this picture. It's like a corny little picture everywhere, but it's a miner. He's mining, and you can probably find on the internet. He stops like an inch before the diamonds,
Yes.
and he starts to walk back around. I love that picture because
I,
you don't know
I
when
know
your moment's
exactly
going to
that
come.
picture. I have it too. If he
I
had gone
love that
one
picture.
inch
An
further,
inch more, you just
the
never
world was
know.
open. Yeah.
Exactly.
I that's such a great story, and just that's an incredible, showing that you didn't know, but the inspiration
Mhm.
you had on somebody without even really knowing it. Just those
Yeah.
that second, and especially now where you are in your career, you can offer such great um, insight to people, and just now you've got a platform. People will listen, right, and say,
Mhm.
"Gosh, maybe I could do that too." Right? You're such a
Mhm.
shining example, and like you say, hey, start, do something, pick yourself up.
Mhm.
Hey, okay, find a place to live, start a business.
Yeah.
What a great turnaround for this
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I think that's the big thing, sort of, the Inspire Lounge, what we're here for. It's, you and I are no different than anyone else, right? It was
Mhm.
sort of deciding that we are going to live the life we want to live. And it's not
Mhm.
easy, and things aren't handed to us. But if you keep starting and keep pushing through those, you know, holes, like the miner with his pickaxe,
Yeah.
you're almost there. You're almost there. If
Yeah.
you really want it, it can
It's
happen.
different. It's not. You know, what's crazy is your story. I've already told you. So basically, where a lot of the best conversations I think happen is in the sauna with all the guys. I've heard stories that I wanted to hear, stories I didn't want to hear. Everything comes out in the sauna. And I remember I was just telling them just kind of like a little bit of your background, but I was telling like your process of how you started the company with everything that you've gone through. And you just see Josh just like, oh, like it's just like it was one of the coolest things. But like I said, you're a testament to that as well, because even your story, like you with no intention, it's already making impact on people that I know because they're just starting to hear like how your mental process works and the decisions you made when you went over for you on the decisions you make in those decisions you made in that year, being in a different country, taking those steps, learning, continue to grow, continue to adapt, has had an effect sometime later on some NFL players in the sauna just by hearing your story from
Oh
some
my
students.
gosh, you just made my day,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
Well,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you for saying that. Yeah, I don't know if we have enough bloopers, although our producer is probably going to say we have a lot of chit chat. He might cut some stuff for us.
You know what is crazy? Um, and I've heard this a lot, is people think in the NFL you only work like 1 day a week. The NFL is like you get 12-hour days, 6 days of the week, and on Tuesday is technically your day off, and you still have to come in if you like want to get better. So like that's why a lot of times, even now, some like top five worst texters, you see a lot of guys are like the worst texters ever.
Yeah.
There legitimately like is no time to text. And then when you get into the facility, it's airplane mode from like 7 to 7 until you get ready. So like that's an interesting
And you're like, oh,
misconception.
they just play on Sundays, and
Oh yeah, oh absolutely. And then guys are I would say guys are a lot bigger than you think. They're also a lot younger than you think. I didn't realize how much of babies we were until you like grew up, when you realize like I came into the league, I think I was like 21 going on 22.
yeah.
I was a pup. I was a legitimate babe. Like my first purchase, they give a sign-up bonus. And like at this point, I'm an adult. Like I'm full grown man. Supposedly, I just got out of college. They gave me a $2,000 sign-up bonus. The first actual thing I cashed a paycheck, I went to Target. I'm sorry, maybe even Walmart, and I bought a PS4. That's $300. Now that's like 15% of my income at the point in time. I don't know if I'm going to get another. I said I got to have this PS4. Like just little stuff like that. I'm like, dude, I was an actual. I had no idea what I was doing. And then
I was
was
gonna say
that?
we talked a little bit about that too. I mean, I think that's sort of that next thing as you're thinking about what's coming next.
Uh-huh.
I think you get these young kids, all of a sudden they get a big sack of cash, and they're like, you know, how
What
do
do
you
you
be
do?
smart about that? And
Uh-huh.
how do you be smart and not go off the rails and kind of keep your head down and keep playing and put the money to the side and have somebody help you manage it smart
Exactly.
because
But
those.
then I mean, imagine if you go back. You know what I'm saying? You're 21 years old, and somebody had give you a lump sum of money. I
Yeah.
mean, your mental processing to handle that is like, well, I don't know what to do. And your first few purchases, I mean, unless you got somebody really like digging in your corner,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're not gonna be the best. I mean, you're still a baby. You're a
Yeah, no, I
baby.
mean it's like, oh man, I got this, and it's going to keep happening. I'm going to play forever, and
Yep.
it's really an interesting career, right? I mean, it's a
It is.
lifestyle, and it's a very small universe of people who
Mm.
actually make it and who actually are in there all together, um, and it's a very special club. Uh,
The hardest part about the whole thing, honestly, is there isn't enough time to do everything. And I didn't know this. If there was more time in the world, oh my goodness. Because you think from I'm training, I have to train for the season pretty intently in the summer. OTA start in April, early April, and they go to June. Then from June, I'm training for this actual season.
so this is
This
just
season,
you told me OTA off training. What's the
off
A?
season training and
Off
assessment.
season
Yes,
training.
ma'am. Uh,
This is your easy training, the stuff you're doing right now.
this is in the it's easy training depending on if your coach is there or not. It's just not as intense because the season isn't coming up, but you're still at the facility. You're still
Okay.
present at work, so you're still there. So if your home base is Florida, you are where your team is.
Okay.
And then when you do get back, let's say during the summer, you're training so hard because I have to prep for the season.
Okay.
Once the season hits in July, from July to February, it's the 7 to 7 phone on airplane mode. So 7 days a week. So I miss all the Thanksgiving. I miss all the Christmas. I miss the birthdays. Everybody has weddings in the fall. So like I miss all the weddings. So I get to February. So that means February, and if you're on a really good team, it's February. Some guys it's January. But let's say you get January for most teams.
Yeah.
You have February, March, and then it's back April again. So basically, all the weddings that I missed from the friends, all the moments you miss with my siblings, all the moments I miss my aunts and uncles, all the time spent with my friends, everything that I had kind of crunched that into 2 months. And then, I'm married, I have a pup and everything. So, now I'm saying, hey, I got to spend time with my wife as well. So, like, because she's from 12 to 12, I'm going. So she gives me 3 hours a day. I'm asleep at 10. I got to get back up and go back to work at 7 again. So you crunch all that in 2 months. And it's like, I want to pick up this phone, but I'm responding. Like, for instance, and you'll find this is probably one of the crazy parts. Every NFL player has probably over, can't say every, I would say like 90% has over 1,000 text messages that are unread. Mine has rolled over to the point it was over 1,000 that now it's like recycled.
Over 1,000 text messages a day?
Oh, no, just in that are unread. Like
unread text messages. Okay.
So I would have to sit in like for an hour and just go, boom, 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 text. This is without responses. Then the response comes in. I got to spend another hour.
Now I'm feeling so guilty that I was texting you like, hey, man.
Oh, no, you're okay. No. It's just, that's the hard part of it. So, like, for instance, right now I'm at, this is after it rolled over from 1,000. So I think I'm at like 2,240 right now. So it's just,
maybe we can get AI to help you on that, right? We're like,
send a couple of them back. So that's the part of it. It's just, you got 2 months to knock out our vacation, our time spent. I gotta go home to see my mom. I gotta go see my boys. I gotta go see my friends. So it just gets like, hey, where you at? I'm like, look, I got one weekend. Which weekend you want to miss?
And you probably have to still stay in shape. You can't kind of let yourself go,
Exactly. And that's the part where I'm always at work, because if I go eat ice cream, which I really want to do today, I want ice cream so bad. But it does affect, like, that's part of my job. So, I have to run that ice cream off tomorrow if I eat it today.
Well, it's funny, when we were at the lunch, I was like, oh, I wonder if he's going to eat his cookie.
Oh, yeah. So I get that's what I did learn. So I would eat like a rabbit. I would eat just all the healthiest stuff. Yeah. And like I said, it was part of that always being on. And I think Scottie Pippen was a basketball player. He said, I wish I enjoyed it more. Yeah. And I want to enjoy the process more. So I might have that cookie. I had the dessert. Yeah, almost got two. I was like,
have the cookie, and then okay. Well, I can't thank you enough. When I heard a little bit of your story as we were talking on the bus, and I said, "Oh man, we got to get this out there because it's such a great story." Mm-hmm. You're such an incredible guy, and I just really appreciated getting to know you. I was going to say, I'm not really kidding when I say you sort of stuck with me now, because I just feel like we're sort of kindred spirits, and really appreciate the person you are, because it's the whole package, right? I mean, yes, I think it's incredible, all your stats and what you've been able to do on the field, but I know you from the incredible guy off the field and all that brought you here, and just really wholeheartedly thank you for being part of this. And I will see you after the Super Bowl, after you get to play that next year, and just wish you all the best, and can't thank you enough for spending this time with us.
Aaron, we're locked in. I appreciate you too. I feel the same way you do. The feelings mutual. I think you know that. And no, thank you for having me. This is a really cool podcast to be on. I'm excited that you're doing this. Like I said, you have so much to give back. I can just feel like how much you're ready to get back, the knowledge that you've accumulated. And I was thankful to just be next to you, because you're going to be a blessing to a lot of people. So just kind of witness part of it, just to see what it's going to be. It's really, really cool. So thank you for allowing me to be here. And we're going to keep this thing rocking moving forward.
Yeah, thanks so much. Go Lions.
Thanks,
all right, Kalif, thank you so much.